Hawks on the Wire is a podcast produced by Three Hawks Haven, an e-card company where love, kindness, and connection are designed in each e-card. The story you're about to hear, shared by Joan's guest, will be a story from someone's life, their personal experience. By learning from stories just like this, Three Hawks Haven is able to create beautiful and moving e-cards that can really touch someone's heart. In times of celebration or in the tougher times of life, Three Hawks Haven has e-cards for most any occasion, including some you just can't find anywhere else. You can shop for all their e-cards by going to their website, threehawkshaven.com. Now to Hawks on the Wire with your host, Joan.
Hi, my name is Joan, and I am your host for Hawks on the Wire, a podcast brought to you by threehawkshaven.com. And today we are talking to Melanie, and she is going to talk to us about pet therapy with dogs and cats and even a bunny and how they help us. So, Melanie, how are you doing today, beautiful lady?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on, Joan. I really appreciate it.
You are most welcome. And I am so appreciative of you being here and you telling us your story and how you got involved with animals. I know you said you kind of, even growing up, you grew up in Ohio, but is there something you would like to share about your life now before we get going with this?
Sure. I am married. I've been married for almost 25 years. I have 3 kids. They're almost all teenagers now. And I've homeschooled most of them, but several of them, 2 of them are in high school now, and I'm still homeschooling one. I enjoy my family time, and I enjoy animals, and each of my daughters has their own dog. We have 3 dogs, 3 cats, and a bunny.
Oh, good.
We have, it's a little crazy here, but we enjoy, I especially enjoy animals. So
Well, you had told me you grew up in Ohio, and as a child, you loved the animals.
oh yeah, I grew up like you said in St. Clairsville, Ohio, and I enjoyed, we had all kind of different animals, and I had 2 rabbits of my own, which is where my passion for especially bunnies come in, because I've had them pretty much my whole life, and I love them too. They have one of just the softest furs, and just they're just so wonderful to pet. But yeah, so I pretty much, I just, whenever I would go to somebody's house, I would always be with their animal, just petting them and getting to enjoy them. And so I just knew from an early age that I wanted to go into animal health or animal behavior or something along those lines, where I was working with animals in some way, because I've just always gravitated toward them ever since I was a little girl. So it's just one of those that I'm very fortunate to be able to still be able to be in the field that I've actually wanted to be in. So
Yes, very good. So you did go on and go to college and went into animal husbandry. Was that what it was?
actually went into animal health. Murray State University has an animal health technology program, pre-vet program. And so I actually went in and got my Bachelor of Science degree there. And I also got my master's degree. And actually, after I graduated, was able to start teaching as an instructor for Murray State. And so I really got into the animal health field even more. And just it kind of evolved into more animal behavior. And so when my kids were born, I didn't feel like I was capable of teaching full time anymore. And I became an adjunct, which is just a part time teacher pretty
Okay.
much at the university. So I enjoy doing that now. I still do that as well. I get to teach one class a semester, and I usually it's all focused in animal behavior, which is right up what I love doing and talking about. So
Very good. Well, and you have told me for these pets to be involved with your pet therapy that you do kind of what did you call it? You evaluate them and make
Yes,
sure they're happy too.
exactly. Love on a Leash is awesome because they evaluate the whole team, the person with the animal. So we want to make sure animals are enjoying what they're doing as well. And so that takes a lot of just, watching their behaviors, understanding, do they seem uncomfortable, and are they able to grow through a lot of the visits, or do they seem like they get more scared? And so that's really important to evaluate as well. And I'm like I said, it's really a team with the person in hand, or handler with their animal is just they just need to have that. You really need to have a really good bond with your animal to be working in pet therapy.
Very good. Any certain age, Melody, that you like, a puppy or an older dog? Doesn't really
Good.
matter.
Yeah, actually, dogs have to be at least 1 year of age. And really, I kind of tell people that even that's super young, and a lot of people will try to have their dogs especially evaluated really young, maybe 1 or 2, and then I encourage them to keep trying if they don't pass an evaluation because they're just not mature enough yet. And some people get discouraged if they don't pass the test, but it just means that there's still growth that needs to happen, especially if we don't see any fear and they're just really excited to meet people. That's a good thing. We want them to be excited, but we also want them to be able to be calm when they meet somebody, so they're not, jumping on them or anything like that. So it's real important for the animal to be mature and, obviously enjoy being pet as well. So sometimes even puppies kind of are too excited and don't even want to sit very long so yeah, you definitely want some maturity and at least 1 year of age for dogs. Cats and bunnies, same thing. You just want, they need to be mature as well. But if you take them to a veterinarian, they can actually look through and see how they're doing in the clinic and actually do your evaluation for you. Where a dog it needs to be like an AKC evaluator, or like I have a certification in certified professional dog trainer, something along those lines. Somebody has to evaluate, or a behaviorist, canine behaviorist needs to be able to evaluate dogs that are at least a year.
So if you have a bunny that you might want to consider for pet therapy, you can take that to a veterinarian, you're saying?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
do they observe your bunny several times? And okay.
Yeah, normally your vet has seen your animal, throughout the course of, them growing up, probably. Hopefully that's been the case. And so when they fill that out, they also can see how they are in a clinic, which they're usually most fearful at. If they're going to be scared, that would be the place. So if they see that they're still calm and that they're able to enjoy, being pet and being handled, and, and they have to, pull blood, to do, different kind of tests or whatever, or if they're, checking them for a physical, they can kind of get that idea of, yeah, are they still enjoying it, or even not necessarily enjoying it, but they're not, stressed out trying to leave the office or anything like that. They get an idea what their behavior is going to be like.
Sure. Get an idea of their personality too.
Absolutely.
And I guess with a cat, you do the same thing? Or
Yes. In fact, I had my cat evaluated by a vet here, and Pumpkin is his name, and he's just one of those cats. We adopted him from the shelter when he was a little kitten, and he's just one of those cats that's just very social. We've been able to put him on a leash. Your cat does actually have to be on a harness with a leash attached, and he's been able to do all that. We started when he was really young, just in case we thought about ever, pet therapy with them or anything. You just want to start training when they're young, because you don't know what their personality will continue to develop into. But he's just always been extremely loving. Never seen him be aggressive. When you pet him, he just wants more petting. He's very food motivated, so it's been easy to train him. I actually worked with him on training him to do downs, because I wanted him to be able to go into the library and actually do some downs in the library, and so kids could read to him. And so he did that in the office at the vet clinic. So yeah.
And what does that mean, to do some downs, where you had talked to me about where he'll lay on a towel?
Yeah, so I started working with them on a towel because I thought that would be an easy association. I could bring the towel to the vet clinic, I could bring it to a reading program, and sometimes people will have their dogs read on a mat. And that way they know what to expect when they're there. And if you've trained your animal to work on laying for long periods of time on you tell them to go to their mat or go to a bed, then they know what to expect. And it's a little bit more reassuring to know, hey, I know what my job is.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more, it makes it a little more familiar. And plus it's something coming from home where they've had this, you've been able to train them, on something that's from home that smells like home, and it's a little bit maybe, familiar to them as well. So it's just more comforting possibly for them, too.
Very good idea. So Pumpkin, is he an orange cat, by the way?
Funny you should say that. He's actually not, but he was born, I guess, because they had got him in the fall. His name was originally Pumpkin, and my daughter just kept that. So
Oh,
now he's actually black and white, which is funny. He's not orange.
to the orange boy. What a
I
call.
know.
So, but you train him so he has this towel and he will sit on the towel or lie on the towel. And you have taken him into the library for children to read, and the child will read a book to Pumpkin.
Yeah, so one of the things that there's a 3-step process for any animal to become certified with Love on a Leash. And that is, they have to go through a control evaluation. And for cats and bunnies, we said you go to the vet. So we took Pumpkin to the vet. She filled out everything. She just thought he's, just very social, wonderful. And if you've ever worked at a clinic, sometimes you don't always see the nicest of cats. You might hear people talk about cats. But so that's why they really have an understanding for their behaviors. So when she was like, oh, he's just so sweet, so, loving, all this, she filled out the control evaluation, thought, he's going to do great. And I started taking him to the library, have him on a leash and harness, and started working with him on when we do supervised. So the next stage after the control evaluation is doing supervised visits. And we had to go through at least 10. And somebody is helping us as a team as they're evaluating us as well. Just kind of, they mark through how we did, did Pumpkin seem relaxed? Were we able to engage in conversation with others and all that stuff? So they're marking through, and we go through 10 of these, and they're usually, you have to do about an hour. You don't have to, but normally they're about an hour long, and you try to get 10 of them within the year. And you have to be able to do that with Love on a Leash in order to get certified. If there's a reason, that you can't, then sometimes they will extend it. We've had, nurses that have worked late that weren't able to come at the times that I did library visits or something like that. So they have worked through that with us. And then there's something called the supervised visit, or not the supervised visit, but the visit evaluation. So that's the 3-step process where somebody who's seen us 5 different times will actually fill out that form saying that they've seen us from the beginning to the end. And that way they see the progress, and if they still want to see a few more visits, they can say, I think we need to add a couple more visits on here, and let's see how you're still doing. Usually you can see from the time the animal starts to the end how much progress they've made, though. And I usually see great progression with the dogs that I've even got to evaluate. So I also have a dog that is certified. So that's a little bit different route, just because you have to, we went to an AKC trainer, and they were able to, watch us in the library and see how we did. And we passed the control evaluation. And then we went on to 10 supervised visits and went through the visit evaluation. So now I've been able to also watch other people. So it's really, I really like how they do it, because sometimes there are some that just do a control evaluation and immediately send people into facilities and never see how they actually do. And this is a nice step process, because if they're not ready, then you'll get an idea by the end of the 10 visits. And that's really, I think, important for the animal and the person, because that person will also get an idea. And
then the person that's actually evaluating you and your pet from all 3 stages they really do get to know a good feeling like, yes, this pet, it's going to be okay. Or maybe, like you said, maybe you need a few more visitations or whatever. They can
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, I think it's just super important to be able to see that, because if your animal is getting more stressed as you go, you definitely don't want to keep putting them through that. You want them to be able to enjoy it just as much as you're enjoying it.
Yes.
And that's why it's a team. It's really much, it's very focused on the team. And Love on a Leash is really good about helping each other out with that, and trying to give, I always try to give pointers. We actually started Four Rivers Love on a Leash, which is a chapter of the National Love on a Leash. They have chapters all over the United States. And we started ours, and I started this one in 2012. But we go not just even to the library, but to nursing homes and hospitals and schools, and just lots of different places. Wherever we're invited, we can go. So any special event we can go to as well.
And Four Rivers Love on a Leash, you're located in Kentucky. In what county?
We are actually, I always say we kind of service McCracken and Marshall, because we're kind of on the border with them a lot. And we'll kind of, since we don't really have any other chapters in our local area, I will even go further if need be. But normally we try to encourage people to use a chapter that's nearest them. So there are, I think 4 in Kentucky.
Very good.
I think there's some in Lexington, and I think Eastern Kentucky, and kind of, I think, mid, or maybe in the central location. So if you go to Love on a Leash, the main website, loveonaleash.org, they will actually have chapters and where they're located. And we don't charge anything for any visit. It's a nonprofit organization, and we just really want to bring smiles to whoever that we visit. And that's really just a simple goal. And if we do that, we are super excited. That's what we want to do. So I do want people to understand that.
That's a wonderful, beautiful goal. And the fact that you're all volunteers, that's incredible.
Yes. Yes, we are all volunteers. So the other thing is, sometimes when people ask us if we can come visit, I also have to make sure that all of our members, a lot of them are working. So sometimes we can't attend an event because I can't find somebody that is off on that time or whatever. So, we do say, hey, we will absolutely try. We try to attend almost everything that we're invited to, though, and try to find somebody who can come and visit with people. So because we really just, like I said, it's just so simple. We just really want to bring comfort, happiness, love to people who need it the most.
Yes. And I love the idea, that you can take your pet therapy animals into the library, and these children can read to the animals. Isn't that wonderful to promote the reading skills of a child? It's wonderful.
It's absolutely amazing. I have seen, so we work with all kind of children. We've seen even autistic children who've come in, and parents have been amazed because they wanted to read the whole book to the dog or the cat, depending if I have Pumpkin there. And we've seen this over and over again, and parents have almost been just crying, because they've been like, you don't understand, they not wanted to pick up a book, or they didn't want to read the entire book, and they'll just sit there and sometimes read the entire book. And when we hear,
they read the book out loud
yes,
like Callie's your dog,
yes,
or Pumpkin your cat. They sit there and they sit on the floor with I'm trying to picture it myself. They're
yes,
sitting on the floor with the animal and holding the book and looking at the animal and reading it out loud to the animal. And the parents are there observing and hearing this.
Exactly. And we try, unless they ask us what the word is, we don't try to intervene. And that's one of the nice things. When they read to a dog, they don't judge them and they don't overcorrect them, obviously. And so we have heard that actually builds reading confidence. So when they're reading to an animal, they don't have to worry about being judged about, oh, I messed up, or, this or that. And they can just continue to read. And it encourages them, because they're also petting the dogs. And it's building up, we talked a little bit about this, about oxytocin levels in the body are being built up as well, which are feel-good hormones and feelings, and it makes us feel good when we're petting an animal. And it also makes the animal feel good too when they're being pet. So it's kind of a win-win situation.
Yes, that is wonderful. And you all go into nursing homes too. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, so right now, obviously during the pandemic, we've had a hard time getting exactly where we need to be, but hopefully we're going to start seeing with all the vaccinations happening that we're maybe able to start plugging back in. And I know in a lot of other states, I know Love on Alicia is continuing to go in. We're still working through that, but hopefully soon we'll be able to start going back into nursing homes, because I know they especially need it. But it's just a wonderful way for them to feel loved. When we come in with the dogs, we usually try to make sure, obviously, we make sure that they know we're coming, that if they want to bring a group in, like a group of people, they can bring the group up, so that way the people that actually want to spend time with an animal can, and we're not forcing, or going door to door. And I've talked to you about this before, but we don't want anybody to be concerned about an animal either. Some people do have fears of dogs, or maybe even a cat, or most people I don't think do necessarily bunnies, but there is some level that some people do have a fear of a certain animal. And so we make sure we're very respectful of that. We want to go where we're invited to go, and if they want to bring people up, that's what we really like and then we can go visit with those who are in like a activity center or area where they have several people. But we will go room to room, even if they will tell us who would like a visit. And so we'll knock on their door because they've already been approved, like, hey, yes, you can go in there. They would love a visit from you. And we have seen some amazing things over the years. We have seen people that weren't smiling when they first came in a facility, who have just, as soon as we brought the dogs in, they were smiling ear to ear. Nurses have been just like weeping because they're like, you don't understand. We have not seen him smile the whole time he's been here. And then they'll begin to do that. It just melts my heart. The biggest one that we saw was actually, we were able to visit in a hospital, and we saw a gentleman who had had a stroke of some sort, and was not talking to the nurses, didn't seem to really want to engage. And we had dogs brought in. They're like, hey, can you bring your dogs in here? And we're like, yeah. And he began to start speaking. I mean, literally tears were flowing from them. So it really caused us to actually cry as well, because when you see that, you see their reaction. I'm going based on their reaction, because I don't know this, how he came in, or so it just, it's so rewarding. It's super rewarding to be able to give back to the community like that, and just to see how pet therapy actually does work. So.
Yes, and that goal you have to make people smile. I mean, what a connection people have with the dog or the cat or the bunny, they just immediately connect sometime, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we actually there are several nurses that are actually on our team, or are in our, I guess, we have several that are members of Four Rivers. And one of the nurses has an idea, which I love this idea, is to actually help other nurses. Because it's not just, sometimes people think we obviously go in for those who are patients and things like that, but we also are there to support nurses and doctors and people because they need pick-me-ups too. They've been surrounded by just a lot of just constantly serving. And so just being able to come in. So she would love to be able to give back to other nurses by bringing her dog in to the hospital, because she wants them to have the same, like, that feeling. They immediately smile when they see them. It's a little bit more relaxing. I don't know, there's just something that comes over you, and you just have that sense of, oh, a dog. You just don't expect them to be there, so.
Yes, I'm a hospice nurse, so I can totally relate to that. And even just going from a home and getting in my car, if I had the opportunity to even pet a dog coming down the sidewalk with their owner, or somebody handed me a bunny to hold, oh my gosh, what a lift that would give.
Yes, and we do have a gentleman that goes into the hospice care center here, and they've been wanting him to get back, but because of regulations right now, we're waiting until things start to come back open where we can actually serve in that capacity again. But yes, it's wonderful. Like I said, we've even been able to go to a lot of schools, elementary schools, where they're doing a reading challenge, and we'll bring the dogs in, and they'll sit in a circle, and each one takes a page to read to the dog. So there's just so many neat things that we're able to. I don't know. It's nice because Callie makes my job easy if I go in with her, because they're not really there to see me. They're there to see her. And so when I go in, I feel like my job's easy because I don't even have to say that much except a lot about her. They're like, we want to know her age, what kind of dog she is, all this stuff. So it's just neat because it immediately opens up conversation too.
And Callie, I bet Callie loves the children, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, she is very good at listening and while they read to her, and she's worked on this skill for a long time. Since she was little, I've worked with her I remember when my kids were little, I would have them I would have her in this down position and have them dance around her just so she could remain calm while there was a lot of chaos happening. And so it's that kind of sometimes thinking outside the box of training, that you just need to think about what kind of facility you might want to be in. Now, obviously, if you're thinking you want to go a route like a nursing home, obviously it's going to be a lot calmer, but they need to get used to wheelchairs, walkers, things like that. And so we definitely try to, work on that kind of training as well. So
good. You put a lot of time and talent into your pets. That's wonderful.
So a lot of people in our area try to get involved in pet therapy, and there's not a lot of classes around. So often I will try to work with puppies on up if I know they're interested in working in pet therapy, and create those classes, because I am a certified professional dog trainer as well. So, and I am an AKC trainer as well. So, we do canine good citizen programs as well. Even though they don't have to have that, it's still helpful if they can pass that. They're pretty close to passing a control evaluation for Love on a Leash. So
very good. For our listeners, if somebody out there that's listening is thinking, I would like to get involved with Love on a Leash or pet therapy, what do you recommend to them? That they find a canine trainer, or what do you suggest?
Yes, I mean, some people know this from the time they get their puppy, that this is something that they really want to work with their dog on. And if I know people that want to do that, yes, absolutely. Start with a dog trainer in your area that work on positive reinforcement. One of the things that dogs cannot, we do not allow prong collars and choke collars to be used. So it's really important that people learn to work with their dogs on leash or harness, possibly even a no pull harness in front, but nothing that will have those kind of negative effects. So we do encourage, I say, start learning to loose leash walk with your dog from the time that their puppy's on, and begin to start socializing them to lots of different places and people. And I know that's been hard in COVID, but you can still possibly go to the park and still see people from afar. If you've got your mask on or outside, you can still kind of limit who may come up to your dog. You say, let me put him in a sit. Always be thinking, don't allow your dog to jump on people. If you're really wanting to get to pet therapy, make sure that they can listen to basic obedience commands. And, the more that you can do and build that bond from the time that they're young on, and even if you end up adopting an older dog or later, I've had people that have adopted even old golden retrievers later, and they've been fabulous to work with and actually do great, especially in places like a library where they got to lay anyway. And they're kind of like, oh yeah, they want to lay down anyway. So it's kind of a good situation there. But if you have an active dog, you may want, somewhere like a nursing home where you're going room to room or walking around so that they're not having to lay down. So it's important to know more about the personality of your dog and what they like at those ages. And each age changes too. So you see your animals progress just like we do. And you should start seeing a lot of maturity as they're getting older as well. So yes, a lot of it is personality, and you can't predict that. So I've had a lot of people that haven't passed because their dog was scared of noises. And I'm like, well, and sometimes it may seem a little frustrating, but I'm like, no, you need to understand this is really a team effort. You want your animal to be just as involved as you. And if they're scared to go somewhere because of noises, you don't want to keep working. Now, you can, in some cases, if it's a certain noise, you can work them through that. You can make that noise a positive, have it associated with something positive. So there are some things that you can work through, but if it's major fears, that's going to be a little different. So that's, personality is everything, and not all Goldens, not all Labs, not all, I'm trying to think, Golden Doodles, or, mine's some kind of Shepherd mix. She's probably Australian Shepherd or Border Collie mix. So, not all animals are the same, and they all have very different personalities. I've met some really hyper Golden Doodles, and I've met some really calm ones. And sometimes you can even see that as puppies. So I'll tell them, if I see some puppies younger that are very calm and not overly excited when they see things or stimulus in the environment, I'll say, hey, have you ever considered pet therapy? Or if I meet somebody with they've got really good basic obedience skills and they're listening really well, even around other dogs and people, say, hey, have you ever considered, pet therapy? So sometimes it's good to even watch them as they get older. What are you noticing? And, once again, try not to just assume that at one, they'll be able to pass a control evaluation and move forward, because some of that, like I said, just requires a lot of the animal maturing, to about even 4 or 5. Some people are surprised when I say that. I'm like, not even 2 and 3-year-olds sometimes are mature enough to handle a whole classroom full of kids. That's a lot of stimulus, a lot of smells, a lot of different things in the environment that they've got to get used to. And so, it's really important. And usually, like I said, we can see progression as they go through the year trying to get certified of how well they're, oh yeah, they're doing really well by the end. They should know what is involved, and, we should see that they're excited to want to serve and that they're wanting to go places, and that's important. So.
Very good. And so you watch the dog as the dog grows up, kind of. They mature.
Yeah.
And then make sure, as you said, that the animal, the dog, is happy. So
yeah, and the bonds form. I think bonds form from working on basic obedience, working together to, like, Callie and I work on tricks all the time. So we're working on a routine right now that I hope to do at the library sometime, where she's pretending to go to school, and so we've got 10 different tricks involved in that. And so, all those kind of things just help your bond with your animal. And like I said, I've been working with her since the time she was just a little puppy that we got her from the shelter. And she's been just amazing. She's so smart. And so it's just, you don't know, like I said, necessarily how their personalities will be, but you can begin to build your bond really closely with your animal from the time that you first get with them, whether they're younger or older. But if you're starting as a puppy, that's just a little probably more helpful, so you know what their background's been.
How old is Callie?
She will be, I'm thinking 6 or 7. I think she'll be 7 in May.
Yeah. Oh, time goes on, doesn't it, beautiful lady?
Yes, I'm like, it makes me go, oh my gosh, because I realize that she's getting older. So but she's still acts very young. So I'm excited about that, because I still want to be able to work with her.
Would you like to tell the listeners what's the difference between a service dog and a therapy pet?
Absolutely. So we get people interchanging these two words all the time. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's really important to understand that therapy dogs are very different from service dogs. Therapy dogs, we're encouraging people to pet our animals. We can only go where we're invited to go, and we want to bring a smile to people's faces. But a service dog is basically there to serve a person who has a disability. And so they are there to work all the time. They shouldn't be pet unless the owner is giving you permission. But they have a specific job to do for their owner. And they can go wherever the owner goes. They're by law allowed to go in, because they are helping them. So those are the kind of the three I like to point out in particular, because a lot of people will see service dog, and in fact, one of our members actually raised a puppy. A lot of times they'll get puppy puppy owners just to raise them through up to 1 year of age, and then they go on to more service dog work. And so she would try to go in, stores, and people would get mad at her when she said, no, you can't pet this dog, because it was a service dog. It was in training to be a service dog. Just because it was a puppy, it's all cute and everything. And so it's really important for people to understand that there are puppy raisers out there working to try to get a dog to, a time where it can go on to more service, and they have specific guidelines that they have to do with this puppy. And so they have to take them into stores and all kind of stuff. And of course, she doesn't have a disability. And so a lot of people go, well, she doesn't even have a disability. Why is this dog in here? And so people get real confused, but there's a lot of puppy raisers that have to begin those early stages in order to begin to, take them different places, socialize them, begin basic obedience. And people are not supposed to pet them unless she gives them permission. And so there are a lot of people that will get offended by that, and really shouldn't, because she's doing her job and she's trying to make sure that the dog will do his job later. And that dog actually went on to pass and become a service dog. And so, where therapy dog, it's very different. If we're going out to socialize, we want people to pet our dogs. We want people to interact and socialize with them. And we're trying to get as many people coming in to, pet them as we can, as long as they're sitting. And, we obviously want them to be calm as well. But it's a very different world between the two. So good. I'm glad you asked that.
Well, thank you for explaining that. And I did have a question about your bunny. I think his name is Shadow.
Yes.
And have you taken Shadow into the library or a nursing home yet?
No, I have not. He is just 2 or 3 maybe this year. And so I'm trying to wait. So what I'm working with him on is we're training him to jump into a box that has a towel. I at least would like to try to get a towel, because you can put a towel on somebody's lap with the bunny on it. So making sure that they don't get scratched or anything, because bunnies do, even though we clip his nails, I just wouldn't want anybody to be able to feel that. So I'm trying to work on possibly getting him to be familiar with something like that first. And then I want to see, because rabbits in particular don't love to be picked up. That's just something about them. They prefer to be on the ground. Now they can jump really high, but they don't prefer to be up in people's arms. So we always, one of the things that is recommended is a towel under the bunny so I just kind of want to make sure that he gets comfortable with that first. And so I'm still working on training him with some of that. And we've clicker trained him and worked with him. So he knows how to touch it and target a stick, so I can get him and lead him where I need him to be at. And our next stage is also working him on a harness and leash. I still want to work him on that a little bit too, because bunnies and cats do have to get used to a harness. And so if you can't ever get them used to that, that's going to be a big problem in serving. So that's another thing that we're working on. So.
And when you say clicker train, that's that little clicker that makes that noise.
Yes, a clicker is just kind of there to help you it lets the animal know that they've done something correct. And so you've worked with them on click and treat first and getting an association built up. And then once they understand that it means that they get something, then you can use it for some kind of command or whatever you want to associate with it, or even timing. So sometimes I'll even use clicker training for dogs who are really mouthy and they're trying to mouth me a lot, and they're puppies, and I'll work on clicking as soon as they're calm. And they because puppies are overstimulated very quickly and very easily. And so sometimes it gets timing better than what we can get out from our mouth. By the time we say, oh, yes, or good, or click, can capture the behavior immediately. And so, especially with bunnies, I've really liked working with them on clicker training because they're kind of quick with their nose or, something. And so I personally like to work on clicker training when it calls for something that I need to be quick on with a behavior and capturing it.
Okay.
So
I think using a bunny for pet therapy is wonderful because you're right, their fur, everybody's just, or most of us are so attracted to that softness, and they're
oh,
such a gentle little soul. And what color is Shadow?
he's black and he does have some white. He's got like little white paws in the front and white on his neck. And he's kind of a mix between a Dutch and I forget the other mix that he is. So that's why he's got some of that white going around and white on his front paws. And I used to have a Dutch bunny for 11 years.
Oh, wow.
And so I would take him to the animal health program when I was teaching full time there. And so students got to know him a lot too. He was just the sweetest. And so he would have made a great pet therapy bunny because he loved being pet, and he knew lots of different commands and just was so sweet. And Shadow is too. Shadow's super sweet. I noticed, and this is the other thing I look for, like so we've had other bunnies who are not necessarily excited about getting pet, by just anybody, but he'll just lay his head down and he just loves being pet right on the head and between his ears and stuff. And when I see that, I know that there's this connection. He's willing to put his head down immediately and just be pet and just sit there. So that's why I'm like, I think that he might do really well with somebody, and when they can stroke him and they enjoy it just as much. So
very good. Oh, and I wish you the best of luck with all your pets and Love on the Leash. Is there, if people want to contact you, the Four Rivers Love on a Leash, you all have a Facebook, or what would you recommend?
yes, that would be perfect. We do have a Facebook page, Four Rivers Love on a Leash. It would be perfect place to find us. If you're looking for other chapters in your area, you can go to the loveonaleash.org and they have a website. The National has their website, and you can find chapters and you can find out more about, they explain, all the control evaluations, what's expected on it. And they explain the differences between therapy dogs, emotional support dogs, service dogs. They have all kind of information on there that you can go to as well. But if you're in an area like McCracken or Marshall, I'd love to connect with you if you think your pet therapy dog or cat or bunny is something that you want to do this for the community, or you want to be out there and you have this great connection with your animal. Love to talk with you as well. So, but that would be great. Facebook is a great way to connect with me. And
right. Well, thank you, Melanie, so much. It's just been so interesting. I love your stories, and I just really appreciate you for joining us here.
Well, I appreciate you doing this, Joan, and just putting this information out there, because I think it's super helpful for people to understand more about pet therapy.
It is, yes. I want to thank our dear listeners for joining us again. It is always so good to be with you. And I want to remind you to go to our website, 3hawkshaven.com. We have e-cards for all kinds of occasions, but especially for the challenging times in life. Perhaps you know someone that's rather lonely at this time, or maybe you know somebody that's going through a divorce. Feel free to go to 3hawkshaven.com and send them an e-card. Let them know that you're thinking about them. Brighten their day. And if you think you've got a story you would like to share with the Hawks, feel free to go to 3hawkshaven.com and send us your email. We would love to hear from you. The Hawks would love to hear your story. And remember, when we share our humanity, we share the possibility to heal. Thank you so much.